Hello everyone, and welcome back to CVS2. Intro into CVS2. This time it's I do know what it is. It's part 7 this time. And we're going into the final groove here of Capcom vs SNK 2, and that is K Groove. So let's get right into that.
Here we go.
So K Groove is interesting in that it's similar in some ways to P Groove in that it's very limited on its tool set, but whereas P Groove, that limited tool set makes it low tier, K Groove on the other hand, even with that limited tool set, is considered really top tier. And we'll get into that in a second. I was just about to pick a main, but I think I wanted to do something to show something off real quick. Who to show this off with? So we'll still do this. Oh, I know what I'll do. Okay. We'll do this on K Groove as well, and here's a good way to show it off. There's some mechanics that I forgot to show off in that also show up in P Groove that I forgot to show up in K Groove. But anyways, so K Groove to start off is a mix of 2 SNK games. That includes Samurai Showdown, due to, you can kind of see it at the bottom there, the Rage meter, as well as Gar Mark of the Wolves from its JDing, which we'll get into in a second. So starting off with, and I almost forgot again, sorry, and I do apologize for this coming out so late. I've been sick this whole week. If you can hear my voice being a little rough, I apologize. If you hear me sniffing, it's because my nose is clogged up, so I apologize. But anyways, let me turn on display here. Okay. Like all SNK grooves, it has run, which is from double tapping forward. So you have all the run pressure and all that kind of stuff. All that kind of stuff. You also have short hop as well. So that's done by lightning tapping up or up to down really quickly. And you can use any button, but most of the time you'll see, whoops, you jump with a heavy attack. Oh, I mistimed it. And then confirm into an uppercut of some kind, like that. Like you'll see him crouching. That didn't work out. There we go. Or you can combo into super if you have it, and that kind of stuff. The one thing you do have, let me actually change some settings here. Hold on. Groove to normal. And same with me. Yeah, we'll do normal. At least for now. Okay. And then I'm gonna have you record something real quick. And something that we have seen before. Is you have quick rise. Wake up. Okay. Again, that's something that it's quick rise. It's not safe fall as the game says it is. It is punishable on wake up. Actually, Rock has a way to do it. Hold on, and I will. And this is a good way to show it. So there are, like I said, as I said throughout the entire series, there are ways, some simple setups that you can do to that can punish quick rise. So one of them is okay, and then I'm going to quick rise off of each of these. And if you notice, I'm still holding down back. Whoops. Okay, so that's, and you can tell I was holding down back through each of those, so that's one easy way to do it. Some people can do off throws, some just get off knockdowns. A quick thing that he can do with it is, let's see here, put you back to stand. I mean, if you have super, you can catch a quick rise that way. His off a sweep, I can catch it off of that way and that kind of stuff. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And that's quite literally all the main basic mechanics it has. It doesn't have any kind of, it doesn't have any guard cancel or anything like that. It doesn't have any alpha counters or anything like that, just like P Groove. So if you're get caught in block stun, you're in block stun for the rest of that string. I'm sorry to say. One thing I will say is that should I say that later? I'll say it now. Like P Groove, your guard meter is less than normal. Now, P Groove is 80%. Excuse me. K Groove is 90% regular guard meter. It's not as bad as P Groove, but it is pretty bad. So, A Groove, guard break combos work on you better and all that kind of stuff. And like you said, you don't have an alpha counter to get out. The only other tool you have is something called Just Defend. And so let me show that off real quick. Whoops. Oh, I have it on play, that's why. What? I was like, what the hell am I doing? Okay. Okay. Should be good. Ugh. Get him over there for a real quick second. Didn't get it. Okay, so that's Just Defending. And as you can see from the motion, it's done by pressing, it's the opposite of parrying. It's done by pressing back or holding back. Now, unlike parry, where parry, it had different frames of activation depending on if you tap forward or hold forward. JD is done by, it's 7 frame, you have 7 frame window whether you tap or hold no matter what. So, like parrying, there's an 8 frame lag time that you can use to go to neutral or something, but if you do that and you tap back quickly, you'll dash back, which is not useful. So like I said, it's JDing to JD downwards. It's not like you have to press straight down like parrying. It's a lot simpler. You just press down back. So JDing down back, all moves other than jump ins or overheads and stuff is you can just press down back the whole time. There is something slightly different to how JDs work in that. How am I going to show this with you? Jeez. So, alright, well, this will be interesting. How am I going to show in the air? Oh boy. Okay, hold on one second. So, just so there's a timing rhythm to it. Okay, that should be good enough. There we go. Now, as you saw, oops, hold on. Damn it. Yeah. Okay. You notice I pop up after the JD. That's what was what I was trying to show. Is that you pop up during the JD when you're in the air. So unlike parry, when you're parrying something like an uppercut, you don't just go through the person and you just keep parrying. JDing does something strangely differently. It pops you up as you go. So if you were to JD, for instance, what's his name? What's the name? Sagat's Tiger Uppercut. You would JD 3 times, but you'll see yourself pop up higher and higher and higher. And you might get popped up so high that they will land before you get a chance to even get a punish. And that's another thing we'll get into is how JD actually works frames wise. But yeah, so it'll pop you up. So some supers will, like for instance, Raiden's Flame Breath will pop you up the first time, and it's not, you think you have to, you think the JD timing is, let me get you back to stand here for a second. You think the JD time is 1, 2, 3 or something like that. And usually it is for super fireballs and that kind of stuff. But his, on the other hand, is, you JD once, you pop up, you go, it's around that kind of timing. And that's just because of how JD works. It'll pop you up, and you'll see videos of that and that kind of stuff of people, when people JD, they'll get popped up, and the timing is a little bit differently than how parry works. It's also a lot different in when doing stuff that has a lot of parrying. So for instance, oh, I'll try it. He has one that they can do this with, but it's gonna be really strange. Alright, let's see. Now, I've never tried JDing this thing. Usually I get the first, and that's probably about it, but we'll see. Nope, didn't get it. Dang it, come on. Okay. You should notice how fast that was, alright? And with parrying, normally it's not that fast. It's still that kind of slow. There are some moves that, like I showed with with the wave, where you can, if it's really fast, you don't have to press once. JD is not that way. If you JD once, you have to do it as fast as the moves come out. So if someone does, for instance, Ken's Rising Super, you don't just JD in a constant rhythm. You have to JD as fast as you're getting hit by it. So bum 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 bum. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. It's really how fast you get hit by it. Except for Super Fireballs. At Super Fireballs, it's basically the same timing as parrying. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, roughly. Now, what's good about JDing is that it's a lot safer in that if you mess up the timing, most of the time, if you do it too early, you just block. Nothing too bad about that, at least for the most part. Now, where parrying gives you like instant recovery for you to punish stuff, JD not so much. And there's a really weird went the wrong way. There's a really weird formula on just finding out on whether or not something is actually positive, if whether or not you're positive after a JD or not. You can find this. I'll put a link to it. It's in Buck2's CVS2 Game FAQ, FAQ. And basically it goes into how much guard stun the opponent gets into, and then whether or not you're able to punish, or if you're punishable after the fact. So so this is how this works. It's not like, oh, when you parry you are active, you're immediately active afterwards or whatever. It's after. It depends on whether it's a light attack, medium attack, or heavy attack, or even a special. Depends how much guard stun you have, and then how much frame advantage you have is that stun minus the active frames and recover frames of the move. It's a lot to take in, but really quickly. So for instance, a heavy attack, let's say for instance his low roundhouse. I don't know the frames of it. I could look it up, but I don't know the frames of it at the moment. The low frame, it's if you JD that, it's at 18. It's at you're at 1820 frames of guard stun. Now, to determine if you're actually advantage or not, let's say if someone JDs that, you take that 18 to 20. Now, why it's a range, I think, is there's something with like frame skipping and that kind of idea. That's why they say 18 to 20. You'll probably find that it's actually 19, but in any case. And then you would take the active frames minus the recovery. And where this comes in handy is that, for instance, a lot of moves that you think, okay, I JD'd it, maybe I can do something after it. And that's not the case. For instance, Cammy's Stand Fierce. You know what? We'll do that. Just to show it. Just to show that I can't do anything after it. Okay, groove. We'll do you just for funsies. Because I actually wrote down the numbers to this. And yeah, we can do that. That'll still show what I wanted to do before anyways. Okay. So for instance, Cammy's Fierce, if you JD a Fierce, her close stand Fierce, it's 18 to 20 minus her active frames, which is 4, or for active frames plus recovery, which is 4 and 10. So for instance, so that means it's 18 to 20 minus 14. That means she's still positive 4 to 6 frames. So even after JD with Fierce, there's nothing I can do after that. So for instance, let me get her recorded here. Whoops. You know what, let me, okay. that'll give me, that way it gives me an indication of when I should start JDing. So, she's pretty much plus X. Well. Damn you, game. Oh my god, it's giving me... Now it's gonna grab me now the whole time. Great. Oh shit, I shouldn't have done. Hold on. Work in progress. Let me change how I'm doing this. Hold on. Come on. If you notice, okay, so I was pressing fierce in between all that, and nothing came out, so gives you an idea. So let me try nothing, right? Okay, so you are completely in that. Now, if they, because that's probably, I'm doing an actual true block string. If they stagger that, she can actually counter hit you out of stuff, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that JDing does not make you advantage on everything that you JD. But for instance, a really slow move, a different example would be her far stand roundhouse. So same idea, 18 frames, 18 to 20 frames minus the active and recovery. The active and recovery on far stand roundhouse is 10 plus 22. So if you do that math, she's negative between negative 12 and 14. So for instance, let me try that now. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I'm not doing that, right? And I'm just gonna hold down afterwards. Hold down back anyways. Okay. Come on. Okay, punished. Gotta do so early. Okay, I was holding down back after each one of those. No, not fast enough. Okay. Oh, come on, game. Okay, so that's the idea. So where JDs really come into effect is when you're JDing something that has a lot of recovery frames, where it uses the high block stun. Normally, I would be in block stun that whole time. Normally, she's at plus, I don't know, like 10 or something after that. So it takes that high block stun, and shortens it down really quickly. Shortens it down a lot. But to keep this in mind, so that's for heavy attack. For medium attacks, it's 14 minus 16. It's 14 to 16 frames minus the active and recovery. Like a light attack, a light punch, or a light kick is only 10 frames. So, and they recover usually in 7 frames anyways. So they're 3-4 is usually the active and recovery of a light attack in any case. So a lot of times when you JD a light attack, you're not going to be able to do much about it. A lot of times though, when JDing it, it will throw off their rhythm when they're doing a light attack. Like for instance, Sagat's low short is not actually cancelable. You can't just mash it. If it's a low cancelable short, like for instance, whoops, yeah, no, thank you. Then I can just mash that out. Whether in that GD, it doesn't really do too much. You're still gonna mash out the shorts, and they'll still come out. If it's something you're trying to link into, it will mess up it can mess up your timing quite a bit. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Special attacks, for instance, let's say someone does, for instance, Yamazaki swipe. Normally you can't punish him after a swipe, but if you JD it, it does the same kind of thing. It's 19 to 21. I forget how many active and recovery frames at it, but it has a decent amount of active and recovery frames that you can probably, if you have fast enough super, most likely you can punish it with. So that's the idea. If you ever see people playing against Claw and you see jumping fierce, they JD it, and then all of a sudden he's able to jump straight back up. Well, that's because the thing only has 8 active frames. It's a heavy attack, so 18 to 20 minus 8 active frames, and recovery frames is whenever you land. So if he hits you really low to the ground, which is like in what, like 5-6 frames, he's still positive a bunch. Let's say even if it takes him 10 frames, he's still 0, so he can still jump up neutral. So that's why even JDing a jumping fierce from Claw is still a pain in the butt to do. Still a pain in the butt to deal with because of how just it's only 8 active frames. But in any case, so that's JDing. Like I said, so it's really good for dealing with high moves that deal with a lot of block stun that keep them safe. So far roundhouses, low sweeps are a good example. If you JD one of those, most likely you can punish it. And one thing I forgot to mention that's in P-Groove as well is that after you can JD or parry, in the case for P-Groove, 1 frame before you can block. Now that's not saying that, oh, I can block in between like a 1 frame link. No, that's not the case. It's recovery. So for instance, one thing that might not be safe is Cammy's drill at certain spacings. So for instance, record, let's say, so something like that at around that range. It's not a true block string. So I actually, you know what, so let me I think I'm doing it the right time for that, because she'll recover differently. Actually, or is it the same when it blocks and hits? I'm not 100% sure. Let me try that differently. Hold on. Oops. Oh, God damn you, game. All right, let me try that differently here. Alright, so let's try that. Like that. Notice I did it, okay? So, normally stuff that... So, now that's still punishable, but at certain ranges... I need to get her to actually... Alright, right around... Oop. God damn it. Need to get her into the right range. She's gonna walk up a little bit. Okay, so that's the idea. Normally something like that is that's punishable, but what it does with that 1 frame, it gives you makes moves that are semi-unsafe, maybe at certain ranges, a lot safer. There's some examples in Bucktooth's game FAQ as well. But it's very useful for when you are recovering from stuff. A lot of times, sometimes you'll see someone do an uppercut, and people are like, oh, okay, I'm going to wait for you to come down, and then I'll do a full combo. And then they mistime it, probably by a frame, and you see them JD, and then they're blocking. It's like, wait, what? How did I not punish that? And so it's one thing to keep in mind is that you can parry and JD 1 frame faster than blocking. As a matter of fact, not just like recovery, you can JD or parry 1 frame faster than blocking. So it's very useful for doing like dictators, scissor kicks. The general rule is if it hits twice, if it gets blocked twice, it's unsafe. But at certain ranges, with JD, you can JD or parry if they try to retaliate from that. So one thing to keep in mind when fighting against K-Groove is to watch out for stuff that looks to be semi-unsafe, because they can probably JD it. And if you're going to hit a button, try not to use a button that's really laggy, because if they JD it, like a little roundhouse, they can probably punish you afterwards. One thing, since I actually have it the perfect place for it, is that the one thing in this game that I didn't go into is taunting. Taunting is done by pressing select. This is the PS2 version. I'm pretty sure it's the same in Dreamcast. And taunting doesn't do anything like in Third Strike to your character other than give the other opponent meter. Now that's one thing. The next thing we'll go into is K-Groove's meter. So Kageru's meter, you only get it 2 ways. Well, 3 if you count taunting. You get it by getting hit, not even blocking, only getting hit, or by JDing. And that's it. Other than that, by taunting. Okay? Now, how the meter works is, once it's full, I'll put myself on recovery, I guess. Is that, let's say they hit you, once it's full, it starts going down. It is, I believe, did I write it down? Shoot. I think it's 16 seconds, roughly around there. When you're full, you have your damage increase is ridiculous. So, your regular damage, normal damage is increased by 35%. So let's say where that really shows is throws, which does a bunch is like a level 1 super. Okay, so that includes throws. Specials increased by 30%. Okay, and then your super by 10%. Okay. So, and that's how the rage. So that's why I say it's like Shaman's Showdown. It's rage meter essentially. So you only build it by getting hit and by JDing. Oh, one thing, really quick thing. JD gives you 100 bits, 100 basically chip damage of health for each JD that you do. You gain. It's the only way to gain health back other than Nakaru's health super. It's the only way I know of. It'll actually give you health back. So if you start JDing and if you do like meaty electricity and they start JDing, you're giving them life until you stop. So keep that in mind. You can bait out JDs the same way you pay out parries. You wait for a second, and you can throw them and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, so when you're in this mode, people are very scared of you because they don't want to get supered. As you see how much damage that does. But if they're like turning like crazy, well, what you do then is you go for throws then. Because now you're doing, what is that? That's 2 throws, that does half her life? That's 3 throws. And so, it's a very strong mind game of, oh, you think, it's like, oh god, they're like, oh god, I don't want to get hit, I'm gonna die. Well, yeah, if you're gonna die another way, trust me. So, having that is what makes K-Groove really strong, and also how fast the meter builds up. So, okay, she's built up, alright? And so, normally, if you're decent at JDing, you can probably get 2 of these in a game. Oh, and I forgot to mention, if it wasn't apparent, when it's full, you have access to a level 3. That's it. You don't have access to level 1, just like P-Groove. And once it's full, you have access to a level 3. That's the way it goes. Okay? So, and so you have a high damage, you do ridiculous amounts of damage. It's the most damaging combo. Okay, so you do ridiculous amounts of damage in once you're popped. Now, granted, it's similar to N where you have to find your moment, but because you have such a high damage increase, there's a mentality of, oh my god, I don't want to get hit. Well, then you start going in for throws and all this kind of stuff. You go in for short hops and all that kind of stuff to try and get it. All right. So now you're in this mind game of, I don't want to get hit. Well, now you're gonna get thrown instead. So it's a very strong thing. Now, the one thing that I was going to mention is that how the meter works. One more should do. Okay. How the meter works is that if you die, your meter goes away no matter what. And once it goes to the next character. Now, what's different from, like, let's say S-Groove, when you built it up part way and went to the next round, it went away. K-Groove is not. So if Cammy survived this round and killed me with that much bar at her health right now, she would keep that amount of bar. But the trick is that if she's full, if I, like, for instance, if I won just killing her normally, I would not keep the bar. I would not have full bar at the beginning of the round. Okay. So the idea is like, well, how do you? The idea is so if you know you are about to lose. So I need to wait for her meter to go away. We'll just restart it real quick. If you know you're about to lose, if you're really low on life, they're maybe half life and what have you, but they have almost a full bar. What you do then is you actually taunt them to build it, so that they build it. There we go. Taunt it. So that way, when they do win, because you're pretty confident that they will win, is that you build them you get them to build the meter. That way they don't have it for the next round. It's a very strong tactic to use because, like I said, once you have it, you are very threatening, and you can deal a lot of damage really quickly. So that's a really strong tactic to do, and you'll see it all the time. And you'll see people just wake up with this, like, how come he didn't do anything? How come his meter went up? Because he probably woke up and taunted and that kind of stuff. So that's done by doing select. Okay. Just make sure not to hit start by accident, because then you'll actually lose the game if you're playing in normal rules. Okay? And I think that's pretty much it for K-Groove in a nutshell. Like I said, so it doesn't have a lot of tools. It has JD and stuff, but unlike P-Groove, where it loses a lot of stuff because it doesn't have those tools, because of the meter thing that P-Groove has, it's considered lower on the tier scale. K-Groove is considered really high just because of the damage output that you get. And if you're decent enough at JDing, you can probably get 2 to 3. You can get at least 2. You definitely always get a chance at a level 3. Unless someone's doing a ratio 4 and just, kills your character before then, which is rare. Most of the time, you will probably, even if you bad at JDing, you will get 1 chance at a level 3, no matter what. P-Groove, you probably won't even get that. And with this, when you're at that full meter, you're doing ridiculous amounts of damage. So your comeback potential is really high in this mode. Okay. JD is a strong tool. It's a little bit easier to do than parrying because you're not tapping forward. It's a little bit safer than parrying that you're tapping forward. Excuse me. By instead tapping backwards. And so if you mistime it, most of the time most of the time you're just blocking, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But like I said, your guard meter is 10% less than regular guard meter, just to keep that in mind. And like I said, and that's pretty much it. As for characters, what you'll see, I pick Rugal just because he's fun. Characters you will see in this groove, you will see a lot of CBS, meaning Cammy, Blanka, Sagat, and I mean a lot of them, just because her and Sagat have some of the most damaging stuff with this thing. Let me just show it off real quick. Her, she can actually just link off of Fierce. So just to show so that's 9 hits, right? 10 hits. All right, that's just linking. Oh, that hit, super. Seriously, that's all that hits. And that's just because of range. Okay, you can even do stuff like that. She has, because of her short hop, she has an anti-air one, so she's really strong. She has really fast. She's very mobile with this. She does have air dive and all that kind of stuff. So she's very strong. Okay, let me change this to, we'll do infinity, please. And then let me forward you real quick. He has, we can confirm into this. He does a lot of damage. The most common way you see. Oops. Didn't get it. God dang. Like I said, his shorts are actually not. Jeez. Didn't get it. There we go. Okay, you can confirm into his. His is, and you cancel out of fierces and stuff like that. So in the footsie game, he's really strong. And then one of the main things is that you'll see a lot of people do is because short hop and you're afraid of this and that. But a lot of people do is they'll do this because if you're not blocking low, that will hit you. So anyway, so those are, you'll see them a lot just because they have high damaging combos. They really have high damaging pokes and stuff. Now, like I said, I showed her roundhouse is semi-punishable, but it's still very hard to punish because you're not using that too often. You're using fierce, you're using strong. Yes, you will use roundhouse for far away pokes. Usually the time when you JD it, she's too far away for you to punish it. And him, on the other hand, is fierce. Even if you JD it, is not punished. I don't think anybody's things is fast enough. Not that I'm aware of. Roundhouse, you can low roundhouse probably, but a lot of times you're just seeing a lot of this instead. And run pressure is really strong with him. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, that's what you see a lot of them. Other characters, you'll see Blanka as well, because his throw mix-up with K-Groove, because he does so much damage. You can confirm into his level 3. You will see Rolento is actually decently strong in K-Groove. He makes him very mobile, very strong. 1 second. I had to itch my ear. I'm gonna move my mic. You will see Rock, famous player from NorCal. Leezy. Team was Kim, Cammy, and Rock. You will see Kim. You see sometimes in C mostly, but he's one of the few that you play in K. Because if you confirm into his level 3, he does a lot of damage. Makes him a lot mobile. K-Groove, K-Rock. Level 3 gives him his Deadly Rave. You will see a lot of Geese as well because of Deadly Rave. He has a high stun potential and that kind of stuff. Raiden you'll see sometimes as well. I have seen Joe, Hibiki, I know Amai. K-Groove makes it so pretty much almost any character is viable in K-Groove, okay? Just to put it that way. Just because of how much damage output you have, it's any character is pretty much viable, okay? And just so I can get you see another player from the States, Combofiend had after he picked A, he went to K. He had Ken, Cammy, and Rolento, I believe, and that kind of stuff. So that's K-Groove in a nutshell. I thank you all so much for watching. I just want to do one more quick thing before I go out of here. This is my kind of like the final video, at least for this intro series. Thank you so much for everybody who commented and watched and subscribed. I was not expecting people to actually do that. I'm so excited that people are actually really interested in this. I'm looking to do more with it. I'm seeing if I can actually upload videos of some recent CVS2 events that happen in Japan. They do a monthly thing, and usually sometimes they get posted, sometimes they don't, so I'm looking to see if they will allow me to post them instead. I'll try to see if I can post like videos of, or at least even try like streaming of, watching a CVS2 vid and going over what happened there, and because I see a lot of people doing that. I would love to do that for CVS2, and you don't really see that for CVS2 too often. So I just like to say thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you so much. I hope you guys learned something. I hope it keeps you interested in CVS2, and I will see you guys around. Well, thank you so much again.